Hello everyone, my name is Strange, and I believe that people should know the truth. I have a diary in my hands, which was brought to me by my friend, who recently bought a house in a cozy and peaceful Charlestown. When the outer wall was broken in the garden, a hiding place was discovered, and this diary was lying in it, which is now in front of me. At first I thought it was some kind of joke, a practical joke, but the more I read, the more I realize that it was not a joke. Even in the most delusional fantasies, one does not joke like that. The diary was signed, John Wojtowicz, agent of the Bureau of Special Investigations. A small photo was attached under the inscription. It showed a young man with a bushy mustache in the uniform of an officer of the U.S. Navy, hugging a pretty blonde in a sundress. Scrawled at the bottom is the year 1982. However, I'd better start reading the most interesting passages from this diary right away. And I'm ready to say in advance, if this is not evidence of the presence of extraterrestrial forces on our planet, then what can be evidence? So, I open the leather cover again for the 100th time. On March 22, 1998, I was transferred to the Bureau of Special Investigations, precisely after that unfortunate incident when we were combing this fucking forest near Yellowstone. I thought I was going to be appointed head of my own Special Operations Forces department. But they made it clear to me that I have one back, and it's time to deal with the issue of the secret profile. If I hadn't seen that plate and the alien corpses in that forest, I would never have believed it. However, it is difficult to call a plate a pyramidal transparent object with round holes through which a person can crawl. Then, one of the TechCom smart guys said that these openings were probably covered with force fields. As for the gray ones themselves, they look like people in body. Fair-haired, curly-haired, tall, slender. Golden skin. However, the bodies were disfigured by the disaster. Something happened to them there, and they collapsed in Wyoming. This is how this unusual diary began. At first it may seem like fiction, but what I found next strikes me as simultaneously commonplace, systematic, and fantastically impossible. Apparently, John Wojtowicz was involved in conducting experiments and research that were related to the manifestation of extraterrestrial technologies and the presence of aliens on Earth. The diary contained memories, reflections, but some pages looked like sketches of future reports. I go straight to them. September 2001. Howard Bukowski, hereinafter referred to as the Object, was detained in his apartment at 4:00 a.m. He was immediately taken to a secret prison for detention and subsequent transfer to a research center. Officially charged with drug possession, the guys from the Special Department of the State Police work. About the Object. Howard Bukowski, male, 22 years old, white, unemployed. He does not suffer from chronic diseases and mental retardation. A reason for observation. The Object has repeatedly appeared in public places with claims that it was abducted by aliens for the purpose of medical experiments and contact. External observation has refuted the assumption of drug addiction. The Object was taken into development. October 2001. The first month of observing the Object. The results exceeded all expectations. The first indications are blurred. It is impossible to put together a complete picture of the abduction and contact. For stimulation, the Object was put into a psychotropic and hypnotic trance. Here's what we found out. Further, Howard Bukowski's own testimony is recorded in the diary, probably copied from the protocol or restored from memory. I don't remember how it happened. At first, there was a feeling that the floor was slipping away from under my feet. I was in my apartment, lying on a cot. Then the races. I woke up pinned to a table or a cot. I couldn't move, although there were no ropes or fetters on me. A silvery sphere appeared above me, which began to descend and envelop me. I could feel something liquid pouring into my ears, eyes, nose, my fucking dick and anus. I tried to scream, but I couldn't. Pain. Believe me, you have never experienced such pain as I experienced back then. The pain spread in waves from his groin to his head and concentrated there. I felt like I was crazy or couldn't wake up. After that, the silver sphere came out of me and hovered over me again. And then she penetrated me again. Now I remember that someone was watching this process, but I can't describe them. October 23 to 24, 2001. After repeated stimulation and increased psychotropic hypnotic pressure, the Object gave evidence. A sketch of the aliens has been compiled. Illustrations are attached. The verbal portrait is of tall, slender creatures, black lifeless eyes occupying 2/3 of the front surface. Lack of involvement, lack of empathy. Periodically, the bodies of the two aliens merge together through the diffusion of skin tissue. This statement may be a fantasy of the object under the influence of psychotropic drugs. Currently, the drug has been replaced. The chief gave instructions to not mess around with the object and get all the information. In the future, brain vivisection and laboratory examination of spinal cord, brain, and liver tissues are planned. Currently, traces of radiation exposure of red blood cells have been identified. November 12, 2001. This is a failure. Research on the edge. We dripped in that direction, but everything didn't go according to plan. These damn scientists did not assume that the drugs they were feeding the object with would have a side effect. Currently, the subject is showing signs of schizophrenia, breaking into schizophasic delirium. He can now easily be told that Bigfoot has become president of the United States, and the object will be happy to tell you about the details of the election campaign. The subject tried to commit suicide by hitting his head against the wall of the cell. Currently, measures have been taken. The facility has been transferred to a soft cell under round-the-clock supervision. Prior to that, supervision was carried out only during waking hours. Then there was no control. Employees Paul Newman and Ronald Wisley were fired, then liquidated. The facility has received medical assistance. Currently, the facility is encouraged by promises of a speedy return home, assurances of cooperation and service for the benefit of the United States. Strangely enough, the object shares the ideas of the Republicans, a patriot. Probably his ancestors kept cotton plantations somewhere near Atlanta and flogged Negroes. Funny. Psychotropic hypnotic pressure has been neutralized. Scientists are selecting options. The boss is constantly in a hurry. The case has reached the federal level and is controlled by a highbrow from the Oval Office. I skipped the further pages of the diary. They practically do not describe Howard Bukowski's research or behavior. I go straight to the interesting part. December 15, 2001. A breakthrough. This is a fucking breakthrough. It shakes me up when I write. My lover said that I just had an unreal boner. So, to the point. The subject discovered in himself the ability to read other people's thoughts. The ability was revealed during the Rorschach test, black spots. The ability is multiplied after the introduction of a heroin solution into the patient's blood. To preserve the facility, heroin was replaced with veronal. Conclusion from the complex of laboratory studies and indications given by the object. When the silvery liquid sphere penetrated into the body of the observed with subsequent exit, some bacteria that respond positively to heroin, veronal, were preserved and recultivated in the body of the observed. Bacteria enter the bloodstream, spreading to the membranes of the brain and spinal cord, where a certain toxin is released. It has been previously established that it is the toxin that gives the ability to read minds. No other abilities have been identified. A breakthrough, a fucking breakthrough. December 22, 2001. Contact with the object is prohibited. The possibility of controlling other people's actions through suppression of will is revealed. 3 doctors are currently undergoing a special examination. The incident occurred during a routine examination, after which the object tried to escape, turning the doctors into mooing, drooling vegetables. The facility was returned to the cell with minimal cost by the internal security forces of the laboratory. The losses among the guards were 2 people, who were similarly turned into mooing vegetables. But I could have been in their place myself. Being engaged in the control of the study, it was unrealistic to conduct an interrogation of the object myself. The chief has given the go-ahead for the surgical isolation of the toxin. An action is being prepared to eliminate the object through a ventilation shaft, nerve gas. Howard Bukowski's body, or rather all that was left of it, was transported on a medical trolley on a tiled floor. The doctor was busily pushing a cart in front of him, and armed commandos were walking behind him. The doctor stopped the gurney and went to the massive metal door and dialed the access code. The magnetic locks clanged noisily, the servo motors whirred, and the door began to open. The doctor felt at this moment some kind of sacred awe, involvement in the sacrament. My heart was pleasantly pausing, the blood was running through my veins and hitting my head. I wonder if these commandos are experiencing something similar. The doctor glanced briefly into the eyes of the commandos, whose faces were covered with white balaclavas. No, it's not typical for these blockheads. Guns, grenade launchers, chicks with boobs, that's all for them. How do they even get a special pass, morons? The doctor wheeled the cart into a special storage room. Jets of dry disinfectant smoke struck from above. The second door swung open, and the doctor pushed the cart further. He busily placed the flasks with Howard Bukowski's artifacts on the stands, carefully signed the information cards. Leaving the vault, the doctor turned around and looked at the flask, in which Howard Bukowski's eyes and brain were frozen in a suspended state. It was from the ocular nerves and hypothalamus that the toxin was isolated, which allowed miracles to work. The flask was located on a table, and behind it, in large cylindrical tanks, fused into low-temperature glass, rested the bodies of 3 naked aliens. Tall, curly-haired, golden-skinned, disfigured by disaster. The head of a special research center, once an experienced neurosurgeon named Scott Santorini, smoked and drank coffee, looking out the window at the courtyard. Soldiers, and there's their officer. Some men, how tired of all this. The courtyard gate opened and a yellow school bus drove into the area. Santorini grinned. Conspirators, for fuck's sake. Children, 8 people, jumped out of the bus onto the concrete parade ground. They were confused or maybe scared by the place where they were brought. Guys with machine guns. Now they will calm down and it will be necessary to go out to them, cheer them up, joke with them, take them to the playroom. All the children were selected from different orphanages in Mexico. I wonder if they speak English at all. From the final entries of the diary. January 2002. The isolated toxin responds positively to heroin. Mistake. The toxin responds to endorphins produced in the brain at the moment of narcotic euphoria. Due to the negative effects of the drug on the body, alternative methods are being sought. Experiments with synthetic endorphins have failed. It was decided to conduct preliminary tests on a group of different sex adolescents from 10 to 14 years old. This age is considered acceptable because of the ability of children to be happy just like that, under the influence of endorphins. If you think that this is not proof of the existence of aliens, then you are right. There is much more evidence, and on our channel, we will reveal all the secrets and evidence of their presence. Subscribe to the channel and send me your stories related to aliens by email. You will find contacts in the About the Channel section. Together, we will force the authorities of all countries to disclose all the information they have. After all, people should know the truth.